Hey guys, Lynn Marie here, your quitting evangelist, bringing you with me as I leave my office for the last time. Here is a little piece of evidence. This is the only thing I'm leaving of me, was this little smiley face I drew to try to make patients less angry when they were here. Only one person, I think, in the year I had it up asked about it. But here's my office, or was. There's my view of the 8. And there's where I sat forever. All right, Pete. Pete says, let's do this. Let's do this. You're coming with me. By the way, there's going to be this short period of quiet as I walk through the hall because you just don't, Facebook from here. So hold on. I'm out. I'm done. I'm so happy. I saw my very last patient. I have pre-cooled down my car a little bit so I can sit in here and talk to you guys. I don't know that you can see this. Let me see if I can live turn this camera around. Oh, I can't. Well, anyway, I've been at this building for 7 years and with the VA for 9. And I saw my last patient, and I was ever so grateful that that patient was delightful. And I told her, she actually gets up at the end, and I hadn't told her ahead of time, like, oh, you're the last patient I will ever see in person. But she gets up at the end and she says, thank you so much for squeezing me in. And I said, squeezing you in? And she said, yeah, like this appointment was made yesterday. I said, oh, I had no idea. She's like, I'm just so grateful you could fit me in. I said, well, I'm grateful you were my last patient ever. I said, I was like a lovely way to go out of medicine. She's like, oh my goodness. And she was like very excited for me. And I shook her hand, and that's not a thing I generally do because I'm a total germaphobe. But it was lovely, and the whole encounter went lovely. And by the way, now I'm going to turn on my car because it's many, many degrees in this black car. And it's probably loud. Anyway, the quit of the week, I swear, I even came up with one. I'm not just going to tell you, yeah, I walked out of medicine. The quit of the week is quit the Golden Handcuffs, because that's what I was in. And they're called handcuffs for a reason, and they're golden for a reason. Like, yes, the VA wasn't quote unquote easy job. It was simple, but it was not easy. There were very many reasons that it was a toxic environment for me. And I was very anxious there. I was anxious down to almost the last minute. I was anxious that the last patient was going to be mad that I was late seeing her because they threw me a going away potluck, and that put me late. Every minute anxious for some reason, seemingly. But that's handcuffs because, you have a hard time walking away from something that is so golden. It's providing a good income with not that many hours. And so I stayed, and I stayed, and I stayed, and I stayed. And while I was staying, I only had so many ideas of what I could do after. Okay, I'll make the quitting thing happen, and then I'll wait till that happens, and then I'll be out. There were very few other opportunities that I even let my brain go explore. It didn't have to explore because there was no fire lit under me. I had this job. And it wasn't until I finally said, no, I'm going to do something else, that I started really opening my mind to different possibilities. And so many things have come up since then. Things that I would be so stoked to do, better ideas than I had before. And I know that they wouldn't have come up had I just continued to stay and continued to quietly suffer and have this, frankly, part of it. And maybe this is where some of you can identify if you've been in the Golden Handcuff situation, is that yes, you're only at a place a certain number of hours, but the mental space that place takes up, both because it causes you anxiety, and for me, because it's so out of alignment with who I am. I'm a peaceful person, and I want to be free to talk about whatever I want to talk about, that if I think it's going to help people, like plant medicine of any variety. As a Department of Defense employee until 30 seconds ago when I handed in my things, I didn't feel like I was free to talk about that. I definitely didn't feel like I could ever share any experiences I ever had with that if that was a thing I was going to do. And so there I was with this big chunk of my soul taken up by this job that was keeping me out of alignment. And that may be for you. Like maybe you're in a sales job and you make so much money, but you just hate the feeling of doing sales, or maybe you're selling something you don't believe in. And so they can be like, yeah, but you only work, 40 hours a week. You get to spend the rest of your time spending all that money. Yeah, but like, do you ever really, when you go home, does your brain ever really completely separate from the fact that you have that job? For me, it never did. For me, it was always somewhere in my mind that I couldn't do all of these things because I had this certain job. I couldn't, people would say, oh, you got these huge student loans, like, why don't you just go live in Bali? I was like, well, I can't because I work at the VA, and I can't, there's no VA in Bali. Like, there was always these can'ts because, and I never let myself open to other possibilities. So it's a golden handcuffs, not only handcuffing you to a job, but to like a mindset, and it handcuffs your mind from where it can even go and what possibilities it can explore, what could be there behind that job once you let it go. So, man, it's funny. I thought I was going to be significantly more emotional leaving. I was significantly more emotional when the last patient walked out. I mean, I still haven't cried. I cried a lot last night just because all of my emotions kind of come out as tears, whether they're happy, sad, or otherwise. But it's funny because like I finished up a patient and then one of my colleagues walked in and told me this other opportunity, and I love her to death because she's like, if you end up, where you're eating ramen and you desperately need a thing, here's another, opportunity to see patients where you can make more money and it's a better environment. And I love her for doing that. But it was funny because I would start thinking like, oh, that's attractive. Then I said, no, I'm not seeing patients. Yes, maybe if I get to the ramen stage, I'll consider it, but I'm not considering it until then. It is not like a backup I am entertaining. There's a definite reason I'm walking away. And I need to stick to this. It's not even a question. Like the thought that I don't have to get up tomorrow or any other day and come back here and see patients is overwhelmingly freeing. And it hasn't even set in yet because I'm still in the parking lot. I don't know what it'll like to go home and like throw off my shoes and be like, I never have to. I handed in this PIV card. It's like all the security clearances are on this little card. And I'm just gonna tell you a 2-second story, but it's indicative of how out of alignment this job was. On this card, you're not allowed to smile. And for me, I'm spending most of my life fighting resting bitch face to start with. And I'm like, hold it, you're going to actively make me have resting bitch face on this card. And it's a card that everybody looks at all day long because it's sitting in your computer. And I remember once, just out of frustration, I said to the guy, I was like, I'm just gonna go, the first time they made me do this really face thing, I said, I'm just gonna go put a sticker over my face. And he replies with, that's a felony. I looked at the back of the card and it actually was. And I was like, oh my God, what do I work for that putting a sticker on a piece of plastic is a felony? Like, this is not my jam. And yet that was like 5 years ago. So it feels like I can finally be who I am. And I'm pretty excited to figure out what all that entails without the mental space that this has been taking up for so long. And not just the 9 years that I've been at the VA, but like I said in a post I put last night, 14 years of seeing patients and 14 years of seeing patients as a doctor, 18 years of seeing patients, period. Pre-med, med school, etc. And feeling pretty anxious the whole time. Not everything is for everybody. And not wanting to see patients does not make me a bad person. And if you are in that same position, it doesn't make you a bad person either. Everybody, Colette says, bye Felicia. I love Colette. Everybody's got their thing. And I know a whole lot of docs who are really burned out because it's really difficult to make this your thing for a very long time. And I feel for all of you. And I hope you all at some point in time make the leap. Like, I have the opportunity to make the leap like I have. And it's not like, oh, I have a bunch of money saved up or I've got this trust fund. No, I am making a leap. I am living my talk. I am walking the walk and not just talking the talk. I tell people, if your health is suffering, you got to go. And that's what I'm doing. My sanity was suffering. And so I'm leaping. And this is what I believe it was Peter Sage on Josh Trench's podcast, Wellness Force, was saying, like, you have to have a graduation episode. Maybe not have to is the word, but like a lot of people who are into coaching or, providing help in some way, there's a graduation episode. They have to go through the thing themselves. And yes, I've gone through so many quits. However, I have never gone through the quit where I had no backup. And yet I coach other people on that. So here is the universe giving me the opportunity to go through my own graduation in making this happen, in quitting with no backup, in actually saying enough is enough when my mental health started suffering, and cutting the cord. I am going through all that graduation right now so that I can better serve everybody else who ends up in the same situation. And so for that, I am grateful. And now I am going to end this live and drive home a very free woman. So again, thank you to everybody who has sent so many messages of support. You guys are just the best. Yes, 2 people out of all the people I know have questioned my quit. And the fact that 1000% of the rest of you have been nothing but supportive means the absolute world to me, and I love you all. And let's start a new life right now, and I will see you on the other side, my friends. And until next time, very, very, very happy quitting.